Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radha Madhav
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So very happy to welcome His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu here at Pune. So it's home for Prabhuji because Pune is the place where Prabhuji got introduced to Krishna consciousness way back in his college days while he was studying in COEP. And then later on he nourished Pune devotees and then further traveled
nourished by Pune devotees.
Nourished by and nourished them. And then further traveled to Belgaum, GV. And at one time in college he wanted to go for higher studies to US. But now he goes to US for teaching higher studies. And he goes more than the corporate practically. His introduction says 400 talks across 100 cities in 4 different continents, all in 1 year. So Prabhuji is truly at the standard of sannyas, not more than 3 days in one city, 100 cities in 365 days. It's amazing. Prabhuji is a monk, mentor, and a spiritual author. Seeing the prevalent problems of stress, depression, addiction, overall misdirection. Okay. Anyway, he felt inspired to dedicate his life to the cause of sharing the spiritual wisdom, and he's doing it very, very effectively, both for the audience within ISKCON. For them, he is the editor of Back to Godhead magazine, the official international magazine of our movement. He is a member of the ISKCON's Shastrik Advisory Council, which offer counsel on scripture matters. And further, for the people who are not yet regular members, then he travels worldwide and preaches to them. And his strength is that, he can address all kinds of audiences. For devotee, he can just go deep in devotion and nourish them. And for those who are outsider, he can quote so many facts and, so much data that they themselves may not be aware of. Even if they Google and find on, what the ChatGPT or anything, they'll be amazed, surprised. And then he can connect to them and inspire them. So he connects to them very well in Australia, UK, US. In fact, he is very well known for his talks in places like TEDx, World Peace Conference, UNESCO, Intel, Google. The dreams, dreams of the IIT and IIMs, that is where Prabhuji is teaching them the higher dimensional science. So he's very well known for that, even in universities like Stanford, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, MIT, Cambridge. All the names which usually are known are all exhausted. They all invite Prabhuji for the classes there. And further, he's very much inspired by Bhagavad Gita, so he's the author of world's only Gita daily feature. And it's going for many years actually. Every day he writes a 300-word inspiration reflection on a verse from Bhagavad Gita. And till now he has written over 3,500 Gita meditations. And I'm not sure we'll approach, is it there in Guinness Book of World Records? Or you can try for that.
Krishna.
You can, 3,500 reflections, can you imagine? Every day to come up with that, Paramatma has to be really active, super active. And he also answers question by seeker on his site, www.thespiritualscientist.com. And he has over 3,500 audio answers and several hundred articles are available. So he's very great outreach. His articles regularly get published in the newspaper like Indian Express, Economic Times, in Times of India. And many of his English writing have been translated to foreign languages like German, Chinese, and several Indian languages like Kannada, Telugu, Bengali, Hindi, Marathi, etc. So he's authored 25 books so far, starting from small books, Energy, Your Sukha, Positive Thinking, and big books, and the recent one, this is the recent one, Gita for the CEOs. He'll be available for you at the end of the seminar. So Gita for a student, Gita for professional, Gita for housewives, and Gita for the CEO. And describes very beautifully that actually everyone is a CEO, because everyone is, at least if not anyone else's life, he is, CEO for his own life at least. So it's meant for everyone. It's the latest one. So we are very happy that Prabhu has taken out some time for being with us here and nourishing us by his wonderful talks, personal interactions, questions, answers. So let us very warmly welcome him at Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Charan Temple by loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra once.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 49, Akrura's Mission to Hastinapur, Text 17. So we're taking a different topic today from the normal Bhagavatam series. Akrura Vacha Bho Bho Vichitra Viryatvam Kurunam Kirti Vardhana Bhratarya Uparate Pandav Adhuna Sthitaha Akrura Vacha Bho Bho Vichitra Viryatvam Vaichitra Viryatvam Kurunam Kirti Vardhana Bhratarya Uparate Panda Adhuna Sanamastitaha Akrura Vacha Bho Bho Vaichitra Viryatvam Kurunam Kirti Vardhana Bhratarya Uparate Panda Adhuna Sanamastitaha Kirtivardhan. Vaishnavis? Vichitraviryatam Gurunam Pritivardanam Akrura Uvacha. Akrura said, Bho Bho, oh my dear, Vaichitravirya, son of Vichitravirya, Tvam, you, Kurunam, of the Kurus, Kirti, the glory, Vardhana, O you who increase, Bhratari, your brother, Uparate, having passed away, Pandav, Maharaj Pandu, Adhuna, now, Asanam, the throne, Asthitaha, have assumed. Translation purport by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Akrura said, O my dear son of Vichitravirya, O enhancer of the Kuru's glories, your brother Pandu having passed away, you have now assumed the royal throne. Purport. Akrura was speaking ironically, since the young sons of Pandu should actually have been occupying the throne. Upon the death of Pandu, they were too young to immediately govern, and so were put in Dhritarashtra's care. But now sufficient time had passed, and their legitimate rights should have been recognized. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand the mysterious workings of karma. And even if we can't understand those workings, please bless us so that we can understand how you are working in our lives through the workings of karma. Hare Krishna.
हिंदी अनाउंसमेंट. हरे कृष्णा. इस क्लास का हिंदी अनुवाद नीचे भक्तिवेदांता हॉल में हो रहा है, तो जो वक्त हिंदी में प्रवचन सुनना चाहते हैं भक्तिवेदांता हॉल में बैठकर सुन सकते हैं. और साथ ही साथ हिंदी का अनुवाद FM 89.7 इस फ्रीक्वेंसी पर भी हो रहा है, तो आप यहाँ बैठे हैं तो 89.7 लगा सकते हैं, अन्यथा नीचे जाकर के सुन सकते हैं.
Hare Krishna. So I'm humbled and grateful to be here with all of you today. And today I thought of discussing on a topic about which philosophically often when we are teaching we are extremely confident, and practically when we are dealing with our own life we are often very confused. And that is the topic of karma. When we are talking, actually in many ways, to make sense of life at large, karma is a very powerful tool. Across the world, there are different ways in which people try to make sense of life's problems. Different religious traditions have different ideas. And karma is probably the most logically coherent idea. There are basically two other ideas. One is that everything happens just by chance. And if we take that idea, the problem is that nobody lives like that. So, what is the problem we are trying to discuss? The problem we are discussing here is life's. Is it visible over there? Maybe I'll just make it a little thicker. Okay. Life's. Oh, this has become too thick. Yeah. Life's unfairness. So, put simply, why do bad things happen to good people? So, broadly, there are two explanations. One is the atheistic explanation, chance. That life sucks. That, life is like a cosmic lottery, and sometimes you just are the loser in the lottery. Live with it. The other is God's will. Why are some people born poor? Why are some people born wealthy? It's because, we are not to question the ways of God. Now, actually, both of these are problematic because in many ways, when we talk about chance, nobody lives like that. Even atheist is not going to tell their children that, whether you brush your teeth or not, if you're going to get your tooth spoiled, you're going to get them tooth spoiled. So it doesn't matter whether you brush your tooth or not. Nobody lives like that. We all live based on cause-effect, acceptance. And if God is arbitrary in bringing about distress in our lives, then how can we worship such a God? Before a person can be considered lovable, the person has to be considered fair. Isn't it? Like, most people do not love their boss unless they want to marry their boss in future. But most people, if they want to work with a boss, at the very basic level, we should have that feeling that the boss is fair. That if I work, my work will be recognized. But if God is arbitrary, doing anything to anyone at any time, then such a God becomes almost impossible to love. So in many ways, actually people keep oscillating between these two extremes of the pendulum. That God's will, if you say it's all by God's will, it's better not to believe in such a God and better believe that things happen just by chance. So now in between these two extremes is the explanation of karma. That why are things happening in our life? It's because of our own past actions. And those past actions can be from this life and can be from previous lives. So in one sense, karma is the most logical explanation for what happens in our life. At the same time, the karma is a word, you can call it's a term. Okay. It's a term and it's also a concept. So basically, if you consider a concept is like a suitcase. It is intellectual, it's subtle. And a word or a term is like the handle we use to pull the suitcase along. I am referring to certain terms. Now, what does that term mean? So that I have a certain concept in my mind. You have some kind of concept in mind. So we have to be sharing the meaning of the word concept. Sharing the same concept. In India, we often use the word pass out. I passed out so I was in Australia in 2014 for the first time I went there abroad. And they asked me how I was introduced to Krishna consciousness. So I said, I passed out in 1998. And the West, passed out means fall unconscious. You pass out. So why did you pass out? What happened? So nobody uses the word pass out in that sense, So it is. So the term is the same, but the concept is different. So that's how sometimes confusion happens in life. That I am referring to a particular concept, but I am using a term for it, and that term reminds the audience of some other concept. So anyway, let's look at the word karma. Krishna says, Gahana karmano gatihi. So the word karma itself, as a term, it has many different meanings. And as a concept, it also has many different meanings. So broadly speaking, when we use the word karma, there are 4 meanings of it. At least 4, many more. One is our present karma. So for example, when Krishna says, karmane vadhikaraste, it is talking about our present karma, do your present actions. Karma also refers to past karma. For example, now we all have to live with our karma. We all have to endure our karma. Now here the word karma is referring to past karma. So now karma also refers to the law of karma. That nobody can escape the law of karma. The law of karma is universal. That's the law. Now karma also refers to one kind of action. That is their karma, vikarma, akarma. That is good action. Now karma also refers to dharma. Now these two are somewhat similar meanings, but dharma means right action. So present karma here simply refers to activity. So if all this is confusing, don't worry. The remaining class is going to be even more confusing. Well, not really. But the point is, we often use the word karma with different meanings. And which is the meaning being used when is something which has to be first clarified. Now, among these, so philosophically, karma makes a lot of sense. But practically, say, when does a particular situation that is coming in our life, is it because of present karma? Is it because of past karma? So how do we figure that out? So say, I was just a few months ago in the Middle East, in Oman, and I was talking with one devotee, and he said that when he was in India, he was not doing very well in his office, and he left India and he came to Oman and he's just grown in his career. So he said that, was it because of my present karma that I grew in my career? Was it because of past karma? So he said, now I have greater financial security. So should I go back to India? In India I can go and retire and stay in Mayapur. So now if say we go to a particular place, and then say, let's take another example. Say we go to a particular place and we fall sick over there. In the pandemic, it happened that one devotee in Australia, he was planning to come to India with his wife, but then he had some urgent work, so his wife came back to India, and he was in Australia, and then the pandemic hit. There's a lockdown, and his wife was expecting at that time. So he had a baby, and for 1.5 years, he couldn't even touch his baby. So it was agonizing for him. So now, when something like that happens, is it because, I was so obsessed with my work that because of that I didn't go there and I was not there with my family? Or is it because of past karma? So when situations happen in our life, it's often quite complex to figure out. If a particular situation is happening for me, why is it happening? And why is it important to understand why is it happening? Because to some extent, that will determine what I should do about it. Isn't it? So if I fall sick because of something, then say if I have cough right now, was the cough because of, I slept under the fan yesterday? Or is the cough because I have a sickly body and I keep getting cough? So it means should I learn to live with the cough? or should I take medication? Now, this is something we all have to deal with various issues. So, when do we decide what to do? So, most of you know that I have polio, I need crutches for walking. So, I was just with some of my relatives yesterday. I met them after a long time. Recently, my father had his 80th birthday. So, we celebrated that in the ISKCON temple. And so I was talking with my father and I talking with some of my relatives also, that I'll come back to this incident towards the end of the session. But so what happened in this case was that my mother, we were staying in a small town in Maharashtra, Chandrapur, and my mother took me to a polio clinic to give the polio vaccine. Among the various vaccines that are there, there's a lot of debate about whether vaccines are good or not. But overall, the polio vaccine seems to have worked. Polio is more or less eradicated. But in my case, what happened was the fridge in which the polio vaccine had been kept had lost its power. And because it lost its power, so the germs in the vaccine increased overnight. And the physician attending there didn't notice that the power had gone off, and he gave me the vaccine. And that, instead of preventing polio, ended up causing polio. So I have a maternal uncle in America. So America is often what is called the world's most litigious country. I mean, for everything you file a lawsuit. There was one case where in America a thief broke through a window and jumped into the house. And when he jumped in the house owner, he fell on the kitchen. He jumped in onto the kitchen area, and there was a knife over there, and his leg fell on the knife, and his leg got cut. And the thief sued the homeowner for injury. And actually, the thief got something like $15,000. So, it's a crazy world out there in some ways. Anyway, so this maternal uncle, he had said, as soon as he came to know about this, he was in America, he said, you should sue the doctor. And my father is among the calmest persons I have seen. My father's favorite verse from the Bhagavad Gita is the Sita Pragya. So my father said that, what is the use now? He's already got polio. And if you go to a court, in India, the court cases go on. The person dies and the case is still going on. So they decided not to pursue the case. So then I was talking with my father, and especially now my mother has passed away, so I couldn't ask her. But then I asked him that, did my mother, how much naturally did she feel responsible? That, that I went to this doctor. Now, obviously she's not responsible, because how much can she see? She was not a medical professional. She was educated, but she was not a medical professional. So maybe she could have gone to some other doctor. But, it is a small town. There are not many doctors available over there. So she said, my father said that for the first few days she felt guilty, but then she shifted her focus to trying to treat, to trying to help to manage, if not cure, but at least manage the disease. So the point is, so I'll come back towards the end, towards a parallel incident. If I don't, you can remind me about it. So the thing is that we all face situations in our life where our mind always starts painting what if scenarios. What if only I had not done this? What if I had not been there and not done that? Then maybe this whole thing would not have happened. So when especially something bad happens, to what extent can we say it is a result of past karma? And to what extent do we say is it a result of present karma? So when we say gahana karmano gatihi, the situation is such that whenever any result comes in our life, the result comes from two factors. That is our present karma and our past karma. Now both of these combine together to give the phala. So, now this is not very difficult to understand even from day-to-day life. Say, if two people start playing a mridanga, and one of them has practiced in a big kirtan festival is going on, and two people pick up a mridanga and start playing that. Now one person has practiced the mridanga for maybe 500 hours. And the other person is picked it up for the first time. Now both of them are playing mridanga, but the result is going to be very different. The present karma is the same. The person who has played it for 500 hours, that person plays in such a way that others will say, more, you can please play, keep playing more. The person who is picking up for the first time, people will say, no more. Isn't it? So, the result we get is not just due to our present karma. Now, in this case, past karma is from this life only. But the past karma can be from previous life also. So, basically, this can range. Sometimes, it can be 0 present, the result is 100. Sometimes, it can be 0 present karma and 100 past karma. Like say somebody is driving on a road and they're a safe driver, and on the opposite side somebody is driving drunk. And when somebody is driving drunk, you can also notice that the car is moving in a very random way. And then the best thing to do is just veer off and stop. Let the person go away. But they do that and still the other person comes and hits them. Then you could say, they did nothing wrong in this time. They could say, maybe I could have gone at some other time. But if that was a normal time and they go for work, sometimes it could be no karma from this life. It could be completely karma from a previous life. Sometimes it could be entirely karma from this life itself. If for no reason I just go and slap someone and that person slaps me back. Was that past karma? Yeah, okay, it was past seconds karma, not past life's karma, isn't it? So, sometimes it could be entirely present karma. Now, of course, in most situations, it is unknown. How much is due to past karma? How much is due to present karma? So, gahana karmano gatihi. So, when we face a particular situation in our life, how much is it because of what I did? Say, if somebody gets lung cancer and they have been smoking a lot, then we could say, it's largely because of your present karma. But somebody has never smoked at all, and they've lived an overall healthy life and still they get lung cancer, then we could say it's largely because of past karma. Now we could say we live in the environment and the whole environment is polluted right now. But if that were the cause, then everybody should be getting lung cancer. Isn't it? So the thing is, life is very complex. That when a particular situation comes in our life, why exactly is it coming? It's difficult to understand that. And why are we discussing this in this context? So we are discussing today an incident from the Bhagavatam. See, the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata, at least the 10th canto, they happen at the same time. But the difference is that the Mahabharata is more Pandava-centered. It's Pandava-centered. And the Bhagavatam is Krishna-centered. Now, of course, there are places where they say there's a crossover. Crossover means what? Sometimes there are these big movie franchises, Marvel Universe or DC. There are different characters. Maybe there is Superman and there is Wonder Woman. And they have their own movies, and sometimes in one movie, both of them come together. So that's called a crossover. Like both of them come together at one place. So it's like different storylines, they overlap and intersect. So now the normal intersection, the normal crossover happens in the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata primarily. That's okay, bro. Doesn't matter. This is a different kind of crossover. It's a crossover of his service attitude. with my eagerness to speak. Thank you. No, it's helpful. Sometimes some crossover make us cross. And sometimes some crossover stop us from being cross. So now normally the crossover between the Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam happens where Krishna interacts with the Pandavas. Like the main character of here interacts with the main character over there. But on a few occasions, there are sub-characters. Those who are not the main characters, they interact. And those crossovers are relatively rare. So this is describing one such crossover, where Akrura has come to Hastinapur and he is speaking to the father figure in that generation, that is Dhritarashtra. And Bho Vaichitryam, he is telling him, you are the sign of Vichitra Virya and you are fortunate. The good fortune, Bho can mean dear, Bho can mean fortunate. There are different contexts, there are different meanings. But he is telling that he says that after the death of Pandu, you have become the king. Asanam. Now, one of the ways in which humor or sarcasm is created is by changing the sense of what is expected to the opposite. So you, for example, if the class is about to end, and at that time somebody says, okay, the class will go on, we say maybe 10 minutes more, the class will only go for 10 hours more. 10 hours. So that's a bit surprising, shocking. So here the word adhunasanam is used. Adhunasana, adhuna is now. So you have just now ascended on the throne. Now the reality is actually the opposite. He had ascended the throne quite a long time ago, and he should have given the throne over to the Pandu's sons now, but he did not. So here he will go and instruct him in future verses that actually you should be fair to the Pandu's sons. Don't be partial. That's basically tries to give him some good advice. So now interestingly over here, when a situation like this is being faced, where Dhritarashtra in some ways was unfortunate, isn't it? That he was born as the elder son, but what happened was he was blind, so he could not become the king. And therefore, his younger brother Pandu became the king, and then Pandu passed away, and then temporarily he became the king. So he had become the king temporarily at that time. So what happens is, sometimes if we consider our past karma, now our past karma, it is like a shadow or a cloud above us. So we are going through this life, and the past karma, it comes upon us throughout our life. Now we could say past karma is constantly coming to us, but sometimes it comes in major installments. And sometimes the past karma may come positively, sometimes the past karma may come negatively. So that means, this is where when the past karma comes negatively, we say, oh, I had such bad luck over here. Sometimes we say that I got a lucky break. So past karma comes in different ways for us. So it's rare that anybody's past karma is completely bad. Now, okay, when I use the word bad over here, I'm using the word negative in the sense that the past karma is so negative that they are going to, because of the past karma, suffer in this life. So, or somebody's past karma is positive, that means that they are going to get more than what they deserve in this life. So everybody's karma is generally mishra, it's mixed. So when we are going through a phase of, say, bad karma, at that time, even if we try to do good, something bad happens to us. So like if we consider Dhritarashtra's life, so we could say there was negative karma because of which he was born blind. See, in royal families, whenever there is a king, the king wants to make sure that there is a succession. And that's why the king wants to have an heir. So heir is the person who is going to be the next king, the prince. But then life is unpredictable, so sometimes the heir may die. And what will happen at that time? That's why the king wants to have more than one child. So the next child is called the spare. So there is the heir and there is the spare. So there is a UK prince who is the spare, and he has now immigrated to America and he's trying to do something on his own. So he's written a whole book called The Spare. And his whole book is about how he was so unfortunate that he did not become he was never the heir and never became the king. Now the spare is in a very peculiar position. Why? Because normally a brother, in the past it was mostly boys who would inherit, with exceptions when girls would also, but generally whoever it is, boy or girl, nobody wants their sibling to die. But if your sibling does not die, you are not going to become the king. So it's a very peculiar situation to be in. So now in one sense, we could say Dhritarashtra was the heir, but he was not the heir. He was the eldest son, but he was not the elder. He was not physically equipped to be the prince. So he was the heir. From the heir, he became a spare. Now from the heir, a spare, he became the heir again. And now he had to become the spare, but he was not ready for this. He had to leave the throne now, but he was not ready for it. So, not exactly a spare in the sense that he would be retired. He was a caretaker king. But the point is that he was on the throne. So now, his being born blind, we could say was bad karma. Now, was Pandu's dying bad karma or good karma? Well, definitely it is unfortunate for the kingdom, but he became a king because of that. Now, he is a king, and how long is he going to stay the king? So the point is that we all go through phases of bad karma from our past, and we go through phases of good karma from the past. That means the situations that we come can be worse than what we deserve. Sometimes we do a lot of work and we don't get any credit for it. In fact, we only get criticism for it. We do 100 things for someone, and that person only criticizes us for the 101st thing that we did not do. And then, we just feel so miserable. Why am I not being recognized? And then some other times we come through a phase in our life where even small things we do, we get a lot of praise and appreciation. And we wonder, I've been doing this all along. Why was nobody recognized it till now? So it's not just the result of our present actions. Present actions plus past actions both come together. So everything that I was going to speak in this class till now, what I spoke till now was the background. But this whole diagram, this one diagram is going to summarize what is the best way we can make sense of our life. So there is present karma in our life. Now present karma can be positive or it can be negative. That means right now what we can be doing good things or we can be doing bad things. And similarly, our past karma can be positive or it can be negative. That means that from our past, either we can be getting more than what we deserve or we can be getting less than what we deserve. So now each person will go through different phases in their life, but we'll broadly put people in their some Mahabharata characters in certain categories to understand where they are at. So if we consider, broadly speaking, a person whose past karma was positive, but present karma was negative, was Duryodhan. His past karma was positive in the sense that he was born in a royal family. He had a physically powerful. That was, the genes were good in many ways. So past karma was positive. Present karma was highly negative. He was evil. He was repeatedly doing evil things. Now, somebody whose present karma was positive and past karma was negative was Vidura. Now, Vidura, how do you say past karma was negative? Here, I'm not saying we don't know what they did in their past lives. I'm talking about the situation that he found himself in. He was always a virtuous person, but a virtuous person who has no power to do anything. Now, he was born in the royal family, but he was not born in the royal family. So he could never have executive power. Like one of the frustrating things in life is that you have a lot of things to do, but you have only advisory power and somebody else has executive power. And then the person who has executive power doesn't listen to you only. And what do you do? And this is what makes parenting very frustrating, When your child is small, then you have executive power. And the child grows and nobody tells that you are shifted to an advisory role now. So the thing is that he was virtuous, but Dhritarashtra would never listen to him practically. So it's like the past karma was, we could say, now I'm not saying he did some past karma bad, but the point is that he was not getting the results that he deserved. He's so wise, but nobody is valuing him. So in that sense, we could say the situations where were negative for him. Okay. Now we could say Yudhishthir or Arjuna, not just initially, but towards the end. When they became victorious. At that time, they came to a phase where their past karma was turned out to be positive. Now again, be careful, past karma means we're not here talking about what they did in their past life specifically. We're simply talking here about that, are they getting what they deserve or are they not getting what they deserve? So the Pandavas were virtuous, so especially it is mainly after the war. So their present karma was always positive, but the past karma was always more or less, at this particular time, it started becoming positive. Now, who do we have as an example of past karma negative and present karma negative? Well, many ways you could say it's our character here, Dhritarashtra. Now, Karna, we could say that his past karma was, it's a little complicated because his past karma, you could say it was negative, that's why he's born in Suta family. But then he had phenomenal archery talent. So it was not completely negative. He became a great archer because he had archery ability. He developed that ability, no doubt. So I would say that he had mixed karma. And in this life also, till he met Duryodhan, there's no record that he did much bad karma. But Duryodhan spoiled him afterwards. Now Dhritarashtra, what happened was, at least for the majority of his life, because of negative past karma, he was not meant to be the king. And then present negative karma means what? He also never took a strong stand. Now, as I said, nobody stays statically in one quadrant all the time. So, Dhritarashtra, after some time, he moved into this quadrant, isn't it? That means, when Dhritarashtra, we could say on birth. Now, was his karma negative at that time? We really don't know. He didn't really have much power to do karma. But eventually what happened was that he started doing, he came to a phase of positive karma from the past. That's how he got the throne. But then his karma continued to be negative. So now we cannot put one character in one quadrant for their entire life. Because life changes. We all go through different phases in karma. But this is just to understand the broad map. So now for all of us, when we are going through life, how do we deal with situations? That was the starting question. So, how much do we ascribe something to present karma and try to correct it? How much do we ascribe something to past karma and just accept or tolerate it? So, I met a devotee in Florida. He is also a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj. And he was telling me that how his daughter, she got cerebral palsy and a lot of other complications when she was being born. And that was clearly a case of medical negligence by the doctor. And then he is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And he's taken the initiation of Radhanath Maharaj now. Sorry, he is a son of a disciple of Prabhupada. So, So he said that he wrote to Maharaj. And he said, Maharaj, should I accept this, that what has happened to my daughter? Should I accept this as my past karma and live with it? Or should I sue the hospital? Because it was quite clear to the case of medical negligence. So Maharaj replied and said that, whatever has happened, you could say it is past karma. But what is important now is that you need to take care of your daughter for her lifetime. And if you can get some financial support for taking care of the daughter, taking care of her, then you should do that. Then he sued the hospital, and because it was a very clear case of medical negligence, the hospital settled outside the court. And there was out-of-court settlement, and now his daughter is still in a very difficult situation physically, but still at least they have care providers, caregivers are there. So now, in one sense, so when I heard this story, I was thinking about my life also. So now, should we have sued? Should my father have sued? Well, it depends. In America, the legal system is such that if you sue, you have a case, then the case is heard and things are resolved. So what happens to someone, past karma. We can accept that. But our focus should be not on whether this has happened because of my past karma or not because of my past karma. Our focus has to be on what is my present dharma and how can I best do that present dharma. So what should happen is that wherever we are, that let's remove the characters from these quadrants and just keep these quadrants. Now we have our present karma and we have our past karma. So now, ideally speaking, we want our present karma to be positive. That means we want to be, now we could say it is best to be in this quadrant, where our past karma is also positive and present karma is also positive. Now, we don't know how our past karma is going to come in our lives. So now, this is also sometimes we have to tolerate it or live with it. Now what we don't want is to be in either of these two quadrants. That we don't want ideally speaking, we don't want our past karma also to be negative, but we don't know. We have done some karma and some reactions are going to come because of that. But what should not happen is that because I am going through a phase of bad karma in my life, bad karma in the sense of bad situations are coming in my life, because of that I become bitter and I start doing bad things. I start doing negative things. So sometimes we may say that, could put it this way now, that going from here to here may be beyond our control. That means sometimes suddenly, we have a good job and suddenly we just fired from that job. And then we just don't know what to do. We are having good health and suddenly we get some terrible medical diagnosis. So sometimes we might just be thrown from the quadrant of both positive, past and present good karma to the quadrant of present bad karma. Past bad karma. But going here or going here, this is in our control. And we can say no to it. So, that our present karma becoming bad. So, because somebody did bad to me, so I become a bad person. Now, what is the definition of bad person? That's a whole moral question. We can go into that. But basically, because something wrong has happened to me, I start doing wrong things because of that. That is where we want to avoid that. So we could say, to consider the example of Karna, well, it was bad karma. It was unfortunate for him that he was born in Suta family. And he could also excuse saying that he didn't know when he became a friend with Duryodhan, that Duryodhan was such a bad person. But eventually he came to know. And to please Duryodhan, he ended up doing terrible things. He suggested to Draupadi, He suggested that Draupadi be dishonored and disrobed. So he uses the word, Mahabharata uses the word bandini. He calls her a prostitute, but it's actually worse than a prostitute. So a prostitute is at least a woman who is in her own place and a man goes over there. But a bandini is more like a home wrecker. That a person, as a couple have a very decent family life, and a third person comes in and deliberately tempts the man and breaks the family. So he uses that word for her. That is complete distortion of reality. It's a grievous insult. Now why did he do that? Because he wanted to please Duryodhana. And to his credit, Karna regrets that afterwards. He said, I should not have spoken like that. I should not have acted like that. But unfortunately, he does not reform. He does not change his actions. So bad things may happen to us. Now we can say that, maybe he felt some anger toward Draupadi because he could not participate in the Swayamvar. And that's why he felt that she had humiliated him. Now, okay, maybe that is true. But there is a sense of proportion. A sense of proportion means what? Say if there's a typical example given of a tyrannical king. A king goes to somebody's house and that person tries to serve him as nicely as possible. And the king comes back and finds that a mosquito has bitten me while I was at that person's house. And the king goes and says, destroy that person's house. Kill that person. Why? Because in that house, a mosquito bit me. Oh, that's outrageous. So, Karna felt that maybe she had disrespected him. But then, she was not the only person. In general, the Sutta class its position was a little bit ambiguous in those societies. So, for him to target her like that was a horrendous thing. So, because wrong is done to us, we start doing wrong. That is where things start becoming very dangerous. So, we don't know. I'll conclude with 2 points and then we can have a few questions. See, we don't know in our lives what kind of past karma we are going to get. So, suppose, like some people say, say that I was always good to other people and still this person betrayed me. It's so terrible. Life is so unfair. Somebody say, I always ate healthy, I always did exercise and still I got cancer. Life is so unfair. Well, that's one way of looking at it. What is the use of being good? What is the use of eating healthy? That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it could be that, yes, maybe it was my past karma that I was going to be betrayed by this person, by some person. But if I have been a good person, if I have been kind, helpful, polite, then when I am betrayed by this person, others will come to help me. Others will be there to support me. Okay, I may have lived healthy, eaten healthy, and still I get cancer. Now because I have lived healthy, because if I eaten healthy, because I have exercised, what is likely is that my immunity is good. My capacity to face that cancer is better. So, we could look at it as that ultimately we don't know what past karma holds for us, but it is our present karma that can prepare us to face the past karma. So it's like, how things work is that our past karma may determine the problem that we face. But it is our present karma that can determine the impact of the problem. So, our past karma determines the problem. Our present karma determines the impact of the problem. So, if somebody has always lived very parsimoniously means not spending too much money. There's this word in English called splurge. Splurge is like a portmanteau, a combination of spend and urge. The urge to spend. So people just like to show off money and spend a lot of money. Now Indians are becoming wealthy, at least some part of Indians are becoming quite wealthy. So there are so many things I traveled all over the world and I have not seen anywhere, there is so much advertisement for weddings. Now, weddings in the West, they are not such big events. Like so much advertisement for weddings, so much advertisement for jewelry. It's a huge spending. So somebody has a lot of money right now, and they have got habituated to spending money like water or worse than water. And then suddenly something happens, and the stock market crashes, and they lose their money. So life is so unfair. You could say that. But if, okay, they had got wealthy, but they've learned without being too much showy, without being too gaudy. And even they lose money, it'll hurt, but it won't hurt so much. So, now here I'm intentionally not going into the, so that's the second point I'll make, which will I conclude this, that, I'm intentionally not going into the devotional mystical part over here. That is, when we practice bhakti and Krishna, aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami. So that part I'm not going to, because first of all, we don't know how much was the quantity of our past karma, past negative karma. And we don't know how much of it Krishna has removed. So sometimes we may feel, why did Krishna let such a terrible thing happen to me? So, that part of past karma, how much it was and how much Krishna removes, because we don't know, let's not focus on that right now. Because if we are too focused on that, I'm chanting and why did this happen to me? Why did Krishna not protect me? That makes our relationship with Krishna very unstable. We, even while practicing bhakti, feel very insecure. But instead, what we can focus on is that if we are practicing bhakti, now bhakti is more than good karma, but bhakti is certainly good karma. When we are practicing bhakti, we develop healthy habits. We start living more in sattva guna. So, by practicing bhakti, what we are doing is, we are creating the best foundation for us to use, for us to deal with our past karma as it may come in our lives. So, if negative karma comes, by the practice of bhakti, we will be able to tolerate it. We will be able to withstand it. If good karma comes, if we have developed a true service attitude, then we will use that good karma in Krishna's service. Say if a devotee becomes wealthy, a devotee becomes very popular, a devotee becomes very powerful, say getting a big post in a political organization or in a company at a top level, then the devotee will use all that for a good purpose. So, in this way, so that's the incident I mentioned about Radhanath Maharajan. The parallel of polio, my getting polio and cerebral palsy. No, there's the same thing, sorry. So it was that, no, it was more about, not my father's birthday, it was more about the polio. Basically, in my case, my father tolerated it. But in this case, Radhanath Maharaj told him that, you should counter it. So he's saying that in different situations, we may have to do different things in our life. So this approach, I'll summarize with an acronym TEAM. T is tolerate. So tolerate is for, if I go back to this particular quadrant, that is, this is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if our present karma is positive and somehow our past karma is negative, then tolerate it. It's not going to last forever. Tam stitikshasva bharata. That past karma may be negative for a long time, but nothing in this world is for forever. So don't overreact. Just because we are going through a bad phase in life, just because people are not treating us fairly, doesn't mean we have to become a bad person. So tolerate it. Now, if we are in a situation where our karma has become bad, then evacuate. Evacuate means, there's a flood coming over here, get out of there as quickly as possible. So don't be in the situation, even if our past karma is negative, we can try to come over here. So get out of that situation, evacuate. So this is where good association can help us. Now when bad things have happened to them, and then they get into drinking, they get into they get into drugs, and then life goes down. But if they get some good association, they can, okay, life has treated me terribly, but let me not become bitter. Let me try to be good. So this, from here we need to evacuate. Now if we are here, we need to appreciate. Appreciate that if, say, my past present karma is negative, but past karma is positive, then I have to appreciate that the good I am getting is not because of what I am doing. It is in spite of what I am doing. Isn't it? It's that, like somebody is spending money crazily and still they have a lot of money in their bank. That doesn't mean that they can keep spending money crazily. Appreciate the good that you have. Appreciate it. Don't just, that's why it's something, count your blessings, we say. That sometimes we just become careless. And last is, if we get over here, maximize. Maximize in the sense that if we are here, use the opportunity well. If we are healthy, if we have financial security, if our relationships are decent, then see that this is a blessing. And maximize in the sense that use it properly. Try to, if we are in a phase where our past karma is positive and our present karma is also positive, then use it as well as we can so that we can do the maximum good in that time. Because afterwards, even if we want to do good, we may not have the resources. We may not have the resources to do good. So, somebody is, say, young and healthy or even middle-aged and healthy, then they can actually do a lot of service at that time. But we are all going to grow old. And we could say old age is one example of when you can call it negative karma, you can call it the law of nature. But basically, situations are going to become not so favorable for us. It's difficult for us to serve at that time. So, let's maximize the opportunities that we have right now. And in that way, we can do good for ourselves and we can do good for others. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. Mainly, we were discussing the topic of how past and present karma work together in our lives. And I talked about 3 main points. The first was I talked about the concept of karma. That karma has multiple meanings. That it can refer to past, it can refer to present, it can refer to the law of karma, it can refer to good action, it can also refer to duty as dharma. Now, we discussed especially about how when we get a result in our life, the result can be because of past karma, it can be because of present karma. And how much is his past karma? How much is present karma? That is variable. And determining how much is how much in a particular situation is very difficult for us. But the gahana karmanogati is how karma leads to results. That is very difficult to figure out. So then I discussed about this particular diagram about how when we function in our life, that sometimes our present karma can be positive or it can be negative, and our past karma can be positive or it can be negative. So we discussed how each character may move through different phases in their lives. So Dhritarashtra, for much of his life was here, then he went here for some time. Now Duryodhan, for much of his life was here, where his past karma was positive, all the present karma was negative. Vidura, for much of his life, was here. Although, toward the end of his life, when his words had impact on Duryodhan, on Dhritarashtra, he was able to have an impact. Then, we could say Arjuna or the Pandavas were here for a phase of their life. So, for all of us, when we are trying to figure out, okay, when a particular situation is coming in my life, is it because of present karma or past karma? Well, the focus should not be on whether it is because of present karma or past karma. Our focus, so when we are dealing with focus can be on how can I best do my dharma. How can I best do my dharma? In this particular situation that I am facing, this particular problem has come up. Whatever be the reason the problem has come up, how do I deal with it right now? And for best do our dharma, we talked about 4 principles. That T is tolerate. So if we are going through a negative phase where our actions are not bearing results, then continue doing the actions. Don't stop being a good person just because we are not getting good results. Then if both are negative, then we evacuate. Evacuate means get out of there. So from 2, we can try to come towards 1. Now going to 3 is not in our control. If we are in 3, then what do we need to do? Appreciate that if I am getting good, even if when I am not doing good, don't think that it's going to go on all the time. Appreciate that this was because of some past good karma, and let me try to alter myself. So appreciate, and then after that I alter myself. Alter in the sense that let me start doing good karma right now. And then if it is, we maximize the opportunity that we have. When we are doing good and we are in a good place, let's do the maximum that we can, by which we can do the most good to ourselves and we can do the most good for others. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, okay, yeah. So let's quickly announce about the book. So much of what I spoke today is from this latest book, my mind, Gita for the CEO. So this is basically presented as a conversation between 2 corporate people, one who knows the Gita and one who wants to know the Gita. And a simple kind of diagram that I was drawing over here. It is that there's one chapter called Assume Accountability. That is about karma. So basically, there's a lot of interest in the Gita nowadays. But for many people, the Gita becomes either too directly devotional or philosophical to apply in their daily lives. So that's why I work with HarperCollins. It's one of the big publishers in India. They publish this book. And if you have some friends whom you have given the Gita, but you probably know that they have not read the Gita or they are unlikely to read the Gita, you can give this as a gift to them. And it's a very easy way for them to start appreciating the Gita, and they start exploring the Gita thereafter. So I've taken 10 key principles from the Gita and I've explained them as 10 sutras. And so this is also a book that if you would like to see, we often see the Gita as a book for transcending the world. And that is there. But how can Gita offer a more affirmative view of life? Where how can we maximize our potentials? How can we contribute in the world? So a more world-affirming, life-affirming vision of the Gita is also given in this book. So I'll be here after the question answer for some time, in case any of you want to have the book signed also. So we have time for questions? 1 or 2 questions really. Okay, yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for summarizing such a nice, in a nice way, such a complicated topic. Prabhuji, my question is regarding the third point that you mentioned over there. Focus best, as at the present moment, what is the best for me as per the dharma? What is the best dharma for me? So, Prabhuji, the question really is that, that actually requires a lot of, first of all, knowledge, because dharma, how to act in a particular situation will require a lot of training. And for a sadhaka like me, first of all, the volumes of purpose that Srila Prabhupada has written, the volumes of lectures Guru Maharaj has given, and the volumes of lectures like your, souls like your kind self are giving, is a huge volume. So, but the action is happening at the moment. So, how do we, basically then the question would be that apart from knowledge, the aspect of the culture, like for example, in the corporate setting, the CEO, there are various kinds of people in the organization, and the CEO knows how to channelize everybody's energy towards the goal of the organization. So, likewise, in our sadhaka scenario, that CEO sort of, I think, is missing or whatever that, although I'm still learning and I'm trying to apply all that knowledge, but if somebody can guide me.
Yeah, I think that this ethos of over-relying on a guide can be very toxic. Because the guide is not going to be there all the time. See, even after Krishna speaks the Gita to Arjuna, and Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. If you look at the Mahabharata war, Krishna is not micro-controlling Arjuna. Krishna is not asking Arjuna before every arrow that he shoots, should I shoot this arrow? No, Arjuna is his own person and he is using his intelligence, his experience to make decisions. In fact, we see in the Mahabharata also, when Ashwatthama is to be punished, Krishna is there with Arjuna, but Krishna does not give any guidance to Arjuna. And Arjuna makes a decision that is pleasing to Krishna. And once Krishna is preparing Arjuna, so what happens in the 7th chapter is preparing Arjuna for the 14, 15 chapters when Krishna is going to depart from the world. And Arjuna is bewildered and then Arjuna remembers Krishna's words in the Gita. So ultimately, it is our responsibility. So we make the best decision in our situation, Major decisions, we certainly need to consult others. But expecting that there will be some guide who will guide me in all times and that guide will be infallible, no, that's a unrealistic expectation in today's world. So, yeah.
But the guide would be required, right? Because for those who are
Okay.
at the lower level.
So, no. See, lower level, higher level, ultimately, if you see the person who is at lower level, the high level guide is also not going to be available to them. Isn't it? For a person who is a new devotee, how much is the spiritual master available for them? For a new devotee, a new guide is going to be available for them. No, for somebody who's just coming, probably somebody's been 5-7 years in bhakti, 10 years, that is their counselor, that is their mentor. Now, is that person infallible? Unlikely. So ideally, certainly we need guidance, no doubt. But my point is the attitude toward the guidance. The attitude is the guide is a resource for my intelligence. I should not be outsourcing my intelligence to the guide.
But that brings a point that, so if you see in the general Indian context, that example of the air and the spear that you gave, like in the Ramayana, that spear problem is not there because Lakshman, although he's second in command, but or whatever. So if you see in India, like especially Marwari families, Agarwal families, they study Ramayana a lot, or they follow the Ramayana culture. So maximum times they have a big joint family. So this point regarding the everybody's personal decision also is actually influenced by the culture that they're living in. So they might not, for example, a lady in a Marwari family might not have such an intelligence that they will see everything from a shastrical perspective. But
see,
because
we are always constrained. We are always constrained by situations. So in the Western culture, you can say there is more autonomy. But in somebody in the West, they don't really have that. The culture might be liberal, but liberal culture also has its restrictions. So that means, you have to be liberal. If you are conservative in that culture, you are not allowed to be in one sense. Isn't it? So, the thing is that everybody is constrained by their situations. So, it is that we have to make the best choice we can within the situations that we are in. And not everybody either has the intelligence or has the facility. But whatever we have, we need to use it. So, it is, we will always need guides, and some of our guides will be reliable, some guides will not be reliable. Sometimes authority figures are good, sometimes authority figures are not good. And it's not that authority figures can be completely rejected. That will lead to total chaos in society. But my point is, if we think all our problems will be solved if I just get a good guide. No, the good guide will help us develop our intelligence so that we can deal with life situations. So yes, generally, in the situation, we make the best decision that we can, if we have to make a decision immediately. And after that, we evaluate. Was that the right decision? Was that not the right decision? So, that's how we learn and grow. And yes, there's a lot to read. But ultimately, it is not that determining our dharma requires us to have like a phenomenal Google-like memory. However, as soon as I have to take a decision, I have to remember this incident, that incident, that incident. It's more of a developing our conscience, our viveka buddhi. Smriti is important in that. But smriti is one source of buddhi. Smriti brahmashad buddhi nasha vinashati. So smriti is one source of buddhi. But you see that it is not that, from smriti also different things can be quoted. Isn't it? So when Draupadi is to be married to 5 husbands, should she be married or not married? Drupada has reservations, and Drupada is quoting Shastra. And then Vyasadeva is quoting Shastra. And Kunti is quoting Shastra. So, Smriti can also have many different points. So, ultimately, Smriti is one resource, but Buddhi is our sense of, what is, Prabhupada defines intelligence as, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, to see things in their proper perspective. That means to know which is the big thing for me and which is the small thing for me.
That is the real question, no? That level of intelligence, a person like me
So
will take time to get.
See, ultimately, you cannot replace that. A new person who is coming, they come to the Krishna conscious movement, they come to Prabhupada, they go to some other guru, they go to some other path. Ultimately, they have to make the decision whether they are going to come to Prabhupada, they are going to some other guru. And how are they making that decision? It's their intelligence. To say that my intelligence is inadequate is to disempower ourselves throughout our life.
Yeah. So, but apart from the intelligence, the cultural aspect is also very important, isn't it? Because, for example, forget about the Prabhupada and our spiritual path, but like...
No, culture can be favorable, culture can be unfavorable. Say in India, a woman is being beaten up by her husband and the culture says tolerate. Is that culture a good thing? In the West, all the women in college, they wear revealing clothes. And that's how they gain some attention. And if a girl refuses to wear revealing clothes, nobody will pay attention to her. And then she has to dress like that. Like, Prabhupada says that a wife should dress attractively to attract her husband and not attract any other man. If the husband is not that, the wife should not dress very attractively. I was talking with one American couple and they were telling that the Western culture is such that when the husband sees that my wife is so attractive that she is attracting other men, then the husband finds his wife attractive. Otherwise he feels, she's just old thing. So it's a perverted culture. So whether the culture is conservative or the culture is liberal, there will always be problems with the culture. So I'm not saying Western culture is good and Indian culture is bad. I'm just giving provocative examples over here. So a girl in the Western culture or Westernized culture who wears very revealing clothes, is she personally responsible for that? Everybody wants attention. Men have the power of physical strength. Women have the power of beauty. And everybody is going to leverage their power. So if a culture is such that a woman will be seen as attractive even when she is not wearing revealing clothes, then she can dress in a decent and dignified way. But otherwise, what is she going to do? So my point is, culture can be positive and negative. Now, can culture be arranged in such a way that a person can be encouraged to do good choices? Yes, that is what should be done. So the word dharma has two meanings in the Gita. Dharma is individual duty. Like, prachami tvam dharma sammudha cheta. That's 2.7. Arjuna is saying, what is the right thing for me to do? But 4.8 and 9, when Krishna says 4.8, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. There, Krishna is using dharma as social order. So, arranging society in such a way that the individual can make good choices. That is also the responsibility.
So, will that happen automatically or it will require the CEO?
Oh, that's what Krishna descends himself for that. So, Krishna himself descends for that, and whoever is in leadership position, they have to do that. So, we maybe in our family, we try to create a good ethos. In our counseling group, we try to create a good ethos. In our community, we try to create a good ethos. So, whoever has whatever power they have, they use that power so that it can be, so that making the right choice becomes easier for a person. So there is an individual impetus and there's individual responsibility and social responsibility. Say, we want to fight corruption. One person may say, I will not be corrupt. But if the whole ethos is such that, if that person is not corrupt, it's not that person is appreciated, everybody condemns that person. Because you are not allowing us to be corrupt. Then, it's very difficult for that person to be honest and upstanding. So now where does it start? Does it start from the individual? Does it start from society? But the idea is, from wherever it can start, we start it. So I've seen Indians, whichever part of the world they go to, they become very successful. Indians are highly respected, highly envied, you can say, whichever world we go to. Because Indians are hardworking, tax-paying, family caring. But so Indians historically have not been people who have taken the responsibility to change the system. So if the system is good, Indians will be good. The system is bad, Indians will find a way to rise within the bad system. That means if you have to become bad, you will become bad also. So the same Indian who will do no corruption in America will come back in India. This is the way things work. Let me do it. So, but hopefully, I think with the digitalization of the economy, things are changing in India. So to some extent, corruption has gone down. Not entirely, but to some extent at least. So I think because of prolonged foreign rule, Islamic rule and then British rule, many Indians collectively lost that impetus to try to change the system. So that also has to be done. Okay. Okay. We have time? It's a little late. Okay, one last question.
Prabhuji, thank you. You have nicely explained karma and everything. All questions have been answered. The only question is time factor. Past karma takes long time to vanish, end up, and come to the constitutional position. That is the only time factor question.
Well, that is again not in our control how much time it is going to take. But for what we can do is we try to do the right thing. We try to practice bhakti right now. And Baldev Vidyabhushan says in both his Gita commentary and in his Vedanta Sutra commentary that a devotee tolerates the negative karma that is coming in their life. A devotee utilizes the positive karma that is coming in their life. And if a devotee does that wholeheartedly, then Krishna takes care of whatever karma is remaining at the time of the death. Now, some Vaishnava acharyas go further and they say that if a devotee has some negative karma remaining at the time of death, then that Krishna takes the positive karma and gives that to all those who have served the devotee. And Krishna takes the negative karma and gives it to all those who have offended the devotee. Now, I would say this is more like a rustic explanation.
It takes a long time to come to the constitutional position.
Yeah, so we can just take Shanai Shanai Ruparamet. Krishna says, just takes gradually, step by step, we'll move ahead and we will come to the higher level. Okay? So, I think there are more questions remaining, but we may discuss them privately, separately. I think I have also addressed this topic a lot on the Spiritual Scientist. You search for your questions on spiritualscientist.com, you may find answers over there also. Thank you very much. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. So you can have a copy of the book from here, Gita for the CEO. We all are CEO of our lives at least. And Prabhuji will be giving Srimad Bhagavatam class tomorrow at Shri Shri Radha Kunja Bihari Mandir, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. there. And on Monday, Prabhuji will be here for speaking on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj, both in the morning and in the afternoon. So please take advantage of Prabhuji's association of being here. And you can personally meet him and inquire also if you wish. Hare Krishna.
Hare. Hare Krishna, the book price is generally 500, but today 100 rupee discount, 400.